Hi, Ken.
Hey, what's going on, Elise?
It's going great. How are you?
Doing well.
Okay, well, we're just going to dive in. But so, Ken, we've already talked about where you're at right now. So again, where are you guys located?
So I'm located in Nashua, New Hampshire. My brother is down in Brighton, Massachusetts, which is basically a sub of Boston.
Well, that sounds like fun. I love Boston. Well, I've never been, but I can imagine I'd love it.
You need to go.
I have a lot of friends there. I need to go. And now I have Jon, so I can go there and have Jon also show me around.
That's right.
Okay, you're in New Hampshire, he's near Boston. So where do you guys, I guess, start us out on your REI journey? Like, how did this come to fruition of you guys just getting into real estate investing?
Yeah. So I'll kind of take this one. It started with me a few years ago. Obviously I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was like the first domino to fall, just like, I'm sure 90% of the investors that invest today, that's kind of, one of the first things that they, got into. And I just started pursuing real estate, a little bit deeper and kind of just gaining knowledge through bigger pockets and every book I can get my hands on. And just kind of found that, the best way to build long-term wealth for me was through real estate. And, you get to a point where, I'm making good money at my career where I'm at now, but there's a limit to that, right? I mean, unless you work your way all the way up to CEO, which, could take however long, if that even happens, right? So, thinking that way and thinking of more in an entrepreneurial spirit, the places and the things that I want to do, a conventional job is not going to get me there. So that's when I decided that real estate was going to be, the way that I'm going to, secure financial freedom. And when the pandemic hit, it kind of lined up perfectly because Kenny ended up losing the job that he was at. And, he was lucky enough to, have saved up enough money where, he wasn't, he was comfortable where he was at. And we pretty much came together and I said, there's this thing called wholesaling that we should look into. And, we did a little bit of research and, I think Kenny kind of started seeing what I was seeing. And he was like, you know what, I think, this is something that we should just, dive in full time right away because I'm not working right now. I'm still working full time. So, with the knowledge that I had gained over the last couple of years and the time that he had, it was just kind of a perfect match for us to start, this journey now, right? Because, Kenny can, in the meantime, kind of do all the hands-on stuff. And, he's obviously learning throughout the process just as I am. But, like I said, we just kind of came together and decided that, real estate is going to be our best opportunity to secure financial freedom. And another big part of this is we want to just help people, right? We want to help the people around us, our friends and family. And, it's not just about the money, right? It's about solving problems and getting people out of certain situations, right? So those were two of the biggest driving forces of why we picked real estate and kind of, how we got to where we are now. And if Kenny needs to add anything, you can feel free.
I mean, I think you covered it, man. I definitely went to the beat of his drum, listened to what he had to say. And, once I started really looking into it, just my whole mindset changed of what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I mean, he pretty much summed it up, and I'm just glad that I took his advice and came into this whole real estate world. It's an amazing thing. I think it's going to open up so many opportunities, and hopefully we can bring a lot of people with us. Make a lot of people benefit from what we're doing, and I totally think that's going to be the case. So, like I said, Johnny basically summed up our story there, but yeah,
that's amazing. I have to ask, so did you have, Ken, any thinking of real estate? Had you heard John talk about it before? Like, what were when he came to you and he was like, hey, dude, I think that this is something we should do. Like, what were your initial thoughts on it? Were you kind of skeptical, or, how was your reaction?
Well, I think it's natural to be a little bit skeptical. Sometimes that protects people from things, but it also prevents people from, accomplishing a lot of things too. So yeah, I had been interested in real estate for years, but it was really just an interest. And I had started really looking into it. And, once I started doing my own looking into it and, seeing the things that he was talking about and seeing success stories of people just like us, it really started to kind of click. And then the rabbit hole went further. And I just kept, it almost became an obsession, because I was like, man, there's just so many. When you think of real estate, from an outsider point of view, you think, all right, either you have to have a ton of money or be a real estate agent or like a loan officer or something like that, like general public, that's what they think. It just goes so much deeper than that. And when I figured out that extra layer, it just hooked me. And that's where the excitement started to build. And then we really started brainstorming and started making moves and really looking into things that can, all right, so what's our first step to start doing this? So, props to little brother for spreading the good word.
Good job, John.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
I love it. And so I got to remember, and I'm glad I wrote that down early when we were on Kent, because I will get back to the partnership, but I want to ask, so how did it start? Like, how did you get into DealMachine? What market, since you both are, my question is, you're both in two different markets. So what market are you focused on?
That's kind of the weird thing about New England is there's a bunch of states that are really small that are all grouped together. So it's kind of, yes, they're technically, if you're talking state borders, different markets, yeah, but I can drive 10 minutes south right now and be in Massachusetts. So it's just really here, but we're trying to focus on middle of New Hampshire down and basically Massachusetts, besides the, Cape Cod.
I love that. And how do you go about figuring out what neighborhoods, or do you guys just know the area so well that you kind of know which areas you want to be in or drive?
Yeah, I mean, so we grew up in New England. We are originally from Merrimack, New Hampshire, which is kind of like where Kenny said is, near the border of New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And, we've had a lot of family and stuff that have lived around Boston our whole lives. So, we're familiar with the area. And like Kenny said, New England is kind of like, a bunch of small states packed together. So, like I said, we kind of took that focus of just, focusing on like the Boston area and the southern New Hampshire area. And that's kind of how we defined, where we want to go and how far out we want to go. But like you said, we were familiar with the area. So we have, an idea of, what cities kind of have like what kind of downtowns and where the rural areas are, in New Hampshire and Massachusetts and even parts of Maine and Vermont. So we had a pretty good understanding of the area, when we started this. So we kind of, like I said, would pick areas that we knew, may have houses that, needed TLC and things like that. And that's kind of where we started.
Love it. So how did it come to DealMachine? How did you get started with DealMachine? Just take me from that journey. Tell me about this deal. How did it come to fruition?
Okay. How we discovered DealMachine? I believe we discovered it through the TTP and like the wholesaling podcast.
TTP maybe
is where we've like heard of DealMachine first.
Max Maxwell.
Yeah, like Brent Daniels and stuff, because he mentions it all the time. I think that's where I first heard it. But as far as the first deal goes that we closed, so I was actually working full time, and I do outside sales. I'm a large energy efficiency sales consultant. So essentially, what I do is I work with businesses and companies to reduce their energy bills with leveraging utility incentives, and that entails a lot of driving. So the DealMachine app was just perfect because I could work my full-time job, and as I'm driving from different client to different client, I also go through neighborhoods that have houses that we're looking for. And I just so happened to be in Methuen, which is a city a little north of Boston, and I saw this house that looked vacant and just pulled my car over. Took me a couple minutes just to snap the picture and add the lead. And DealMachine was great. They just sent out the postcard right away. And about a week or two later, I would say, we got contacted by the seller, and that kind of started the ball rolling on that first deal. So that's kind of how that one was came to fruition.
Just making sure I'm writing down all the good nuggets you're giving out here. A week after the postcard drops. That is insane. Also amazing. And I love it. What are you doing? Well, I guess, could you take me through the rest of that deal? Like, what ended up so the seller called you back. Like, did you wholesale it? Are you guys, I didn't know if you guys are looking to buy and hold too, or anything like that.
Yeah. So
Sure.
I mean,
so basically, yeah, I'll take this, John. So I was going to say, so with this deal, eventually, do we want to buy and hold? Yeah, we definitely want to build our portfolio. But right now, we figured that wholesaling is going to, number one, pad our bank account and allow us to make more moves down the road. But for this one, what we did was we did wholesale it. When I went over to the buyer to go look at the property, it was definitely, your quintessential distressed property, for sure. This place has been vacant for 15 years. The grass is 4 foot high. There's vines going through, some of the house. It's pretty wild. And then we also found out that there's a 3-car garage that's commercial on that land as well. So it was zoned residential commercial. So it was a little bit more of a niche property. But what we did was, it was only maybe 1 or 2 times going back and forth on what they wanted for price. We didn't really beat them down at all because we figured out our ARV. I had sent my videos and pictures over to a contractor friend of mine to give me a good idea of what it would cost to reno this. So I kind of knew right away, where I needed to be, as far as my negotiation. And, he came at me with a number, and that number that he came at me with was kind of already in where we needed to be. So I just said, hey, can you come down any lower? He did, significantly. And so we agreed upon that. When we did the actual assignment agreement, we had been working with a realtor that's pretty local, and he's been helping us out a lot. And we actually utilized him to because it was zoned residential and commercial, so it was kind of like I said, niche property. So we're like, hey, let's use you for this one. We did our walkthroughs with everybody. We got a few offers that were much bigger than we expected. And then, as of last Friday, we put the check in the bank for $38,500.
Wow. Wait, like 38,500?
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah,
I get so excited about these assignment fees. I'm telling you what. Oh my gosh. Congratulations, you guys.
Wild.
And honestly, it wasn't just the money. It was the validation to us that, hey man, like this is gonna work, So the check is obviously great. I mean, to net $30,000 on our first wholesale deal is amazing. But, for me, it was more the proof and the validation that, like, hey, man, like we can really do this. And,
this is real.
Once we're both full time and really digging our heels in, I think that, it's just only going to get better from here.
One
And I'll tell you one
55-cent
thing too.
postcard.
Oh,
Sorry. One 55-cent postcard gets you. That just blows my mind. Okay, go ahead, Ken.
yeah, no, I know. Same. I know. Believe me, it was the same reaction here. We were like, oh, this can't be real. This can't be real until, well, it became real. But the thing I also got out of it too was, we help these people out. They've been paying taxes on it for 15 years without anybody being in it. So it's kind of been a burden on them. They're a little bit older, so they're getting to that age where they're semi to, I think his wife was fully retired. And the fact that there was so much junk there and so much mess. And there was even a 24-foot sailboat on the property that came with it, which I ended up moving for them because he's like, I just don't have the means to do that. So I was like, you know what, I'll take care of that. That was interesting. That's a long story. We're not going to get into that, but it was pretty wild. But yeah, we helped them out. We still keep in contact. They were great about it. We really stressed it. We're here to help you. We want to make you feel comfortable with your decision. It's when you target helping people out, it really all comes back, and then the money comes afterwards. You know what I mean? If you really have that servant's heart, is what I will call it. It always pays off. Whether it's just a phone call to somebody and your first contact with somebody, all the way to the end of a transaction. And it feels good in here, and it also feels good to put the check in the bank, but it's all positive. If you go out and help people, it's eventually going to come back to you.
I will say that's like the number one thing I feel like I hear, especially from successful people like the both of you, is that if you are focused on helping, that is what I hear from the most successful people who make it in this industry. Because like you said, I love that you said It's like the servant's heart, and that is like what it is. You guys are helping these people get out of, 15 years of that being vacant. That is a long time. So you just lifted that burden from their hands, and you literally lifted the boat off of their land. And that is, it also just adds to like the craziness of this industry as well. Like how the situations you kind of get pulled into. That's a story you'll be able to tell for years.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, sure. That story is going to be told for years.
I love that. Okay, now I'm going to dive into who do you both drive? Like, how do you make sure you're getting the leads in that you need to get in?
So again, my brother, he's still working full time, which we're working on. He's eventually going to jump off and join up. He does it basically when he can, if he's going from job to job. So we have that. Me, I try to do 2 to 3 hours, usually in the mornings, because up in New England, the sun just goes kind of like this. So daylight's really short up here. So I try and get it all in the morning. And as I'm doing my morning drives and adding, deals to DealMachine, I'm also doing my education as well. I'm listening to, Bigger Pockets or, Wholesaling Inc., or just making sure that I'm finding properties, but also getting education at the same time. And it's great because it gets me in the right mindset for the day to make my calls in the afternoon. But I try to do 2 to 3 hours a day. I tried to add at least 10 properties a day. Up here, it's a little bit different because the housing is a little bit more spread out. Mm-hmm. You're not, I'm just going to use Phoenix for an example, where you have those gridded, or like Florida, you can just like bam, 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 bam. So it's a little bit more involved, but yeah, anytime I drive the car, I'm rubbernecking, which I have to be careful, but I'm always looking at properties and I'll just manually add them. But
I feel like that's what happens. So, like you get in the industry and you're like, you can't not see a distressed house. It's just not possible.
I'm like, look at that nice piece of junk. Yeah, I know it's great. And we just added two deal finders too. So I'm kind of onboarding them, which is good. So that, we're just starting that whole thing. Now we're looking at, all right, how can we kind of expand our reach?
That
You know,
actually,
so we have had conversations with and they're both older, you know, so they have the time to do it. You know, they're basically either retired or semi-retired, and they do a lot of driving around. And they're like, well, I was like, well, you can make money at the same time as you're doing that, you know. And yeah.
How did you get these deal finders? How did you recruit them?
Oh well, basically, it was two of my dad's friends, at his work. You know, you know how parents like to talk about what their kids are doing, and then you know, it kind of made some ears perk up. But I mean, essentially, it's just talking about it. You know, it's one thing that me and Johnny always say is, anybody that you come across or anybody that you meet, just mention what you do. You know, you might find that awesome connection with a stranger. You know, it doesn't matter who it is. Like, I have a friend, my friend Scott, that lives out in Portsmouth, which is, you know, it's out on the seacoast, and he's an Uber driver, and he's going to be my next one. You know, just from just talking shop, and he's like, man, I'm an Uber driver. I'd love to do that for you. But it could be anybody. I mean, I like doing it with people that, you know, I know first, but who knows? Just talking to a stranger, you might get somebody who's perfect for it, and has the knack for it.
I love that. And Jonathan, you sound like very, I want to also put this little thing in your head, because I used to onboard our enterprise members. Getting a QR code to that landing page that we give you and putting it on a business card to hand out to Uber drivers literally is genius. I had people do that because then they just scan it, go sign up, and then that's it. They're done. Boom.
Sure.
I got this. How is it? People ask all the time about, they're worried about partnerships. You know, what role does each person play? What if there's conflict? And I think it's especially interesting that you guys are brothers, and I'm sure there's conflict that probably comes up. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys may be just like, you know, peanut butter and jelly, but what advice would you give people who are wanting to be a partnership?
So I think I'll go first. I mean, my brother and I have two different, like very different personalities. I would say, you know, I'm kind of more the like, I don't know if this is the right word to say, but like confrontational, more like straightforward, and I don't know, like on the aggressive side. Whereas like, you know, he's more of like meticulous and, you know, like, you know, thinks things through more. So it's kind of like a good balance. And I think it's important, you know, in a partnership, first of all, that, you know, you feed off each other well, right? You know, that you guys are, you know, aren't strong in just one area, the both of you, you know, like it feels like partnerships work best when one person is actually different than the person they're working with, because then they bring different skill sets to the relationship. And I would say, secondly, one of the biggest thing is laying ground rules, you know, and really defining, you know, what your role is in the relationship, right? So, you know, before we started this company, you know, we said, hey, listen, there's going to be times where we're going to hate each other and we're going to argue about things and we're not going to see eye to eye on things. But when it comes to the end of the day, we need to know that, you know, that is going to happen. And when that does happen, to realize that, you know, you guys are just seeing things on two different sides, and the best way to do it is just kind of, you know, talk our way through it and come to a common ground. But, you know, laying down the ground rules of, you know, who plays what role in the relationship, I think is super important, because, you know, if you go into it and, you know, your roles aren't defined, you guys start step on each other's toes, you know, doing the same thing. And I just feel like it causes a lot of confusion and a lot of arguments that way. So, you know, I would say finding someone that, you know, may not have the same strengths that you do is important. And, you know, clearly defining roles in the relationship are my two biggest things.
Yeah, and I'd say, you know, it's definitely like the yin and yang type of thing. You know, me and him are two opposites, but it's great because we fill in each other's voids. You know, and the best advice I can give to anybody who's doing a partnership, whether it's, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, siblings, friends, Johnny said it best is, lay out the ground rules. Remember why you're doing this as well. We're trying to do this to better provide for our family, to be able to, do the things that we want to do and bring our family close and be able to do awesome things with friends and help people out. And it's really we're doing this for our own happiness as well. We want to be able to have financial freedom. We want to be able to make the moves we want to make later. And you just have to kind of keep reminding yourself of that. Sometimes you can get really closed-minded. You can get really stuck in things and can really gum up your head. And, you can have resentment towards the other person, but you have to remember to just kind of pull yourself out of that situation, look at it from a third person point of view, and remember why you're doing this. Like, this whole thing has made me way closer with my brother. There are times that we disagree. Yeah, sure. But we always kind of remove ourselves and go, all right, wait a second. All right. Why are we doing this again? All right. We're doing this, number one, because, we want to have fun doing it. We want to make money. We want to help people out. It's all positive stuff. And then we just we talk it out. And it does work well because we are different. It's almost like the good cop, bad cop situation. It just works well. My strengths are sometimes his weaknesses and vice versa. He carries things that I just don't possess. I'm
I love that.
just not me. And the same back with him.
I love it.
The key is, I think, is just reminding yourself right there.
Yeah, you guys are so, you can tell that you guys are so close, but you can tell, like, in any partnership, there's going to be, something, but I love when you said to kind of like take a step back and know what you're going for. I asked you guys to talk longer, but I actually have 5 minutes left on this meeting, I guess, because I need to upgrade my plan. So quickly, I want to say, one, I want to send you guys some swag. So would you like a hat or a shirt?
I'll take a shirt.
Let's do a shirt.
Actually, I take that back. I want the hat.
Okay, Jonathan, you sure?
Steve, I want the shirt. He wants that.
Final answer, John is hat, Ken is shirt. Okay. I'm going to send you guys a link. I'll make it two separate since you both live in different places. Not too far, and I know you see each other, but it'll go, put it in the cart. It'll comp it out at the end. So if you see it, you don't worry, you're not paying for it. And then I wanted to let you guys know, I will introduce you to Josh for just to kind of go over enterprise, but always feel free. I want to know what you guys are doing, like, and how you're doing. And I want to know more about deals. I'd love to have you guys on a live sometime if you'd be interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would love that. And then to just kind of, how much time do I have left? 4 minutes. Okay. Tell me what is the 2021 goals for you guys? Like as your real estate investing business grows, like what is the 2021 goals?
That's
Johnny, fire away, buddy.
Yeah, that's funny you asked. We actually sat down a few weeks ago and put them together. So just the short and dirty, our goal this year is to do 28 real estate transactions, have a minimum of $500,000 in revenue, and own 3 rental properties. That would be our perfect year.
I see it happening, man. I'm ready to do an interview like 6 months. I will keep you accountable to that. I'll be like, so this was our goals. Do we have this right now? How are we getting there?
Let's do it.
I love it.
I want to do a webinar with you guys too. I'd love to get you on with our CEO and like have people be able to ask you guys questions, because I think you guys can bring a lot of value considering that you are family and a lot of people want to get in with family and do this. And then also just kind of how your stories went, I think Ken, a lot of people can relate to you with, I've heard so many people say they finally made the jump because they lost their job due to COVID, and it ended up being great. When other people were pulling back when COVID hit, other people were pulling forward. And I think that definitely makes a difference of when that happens.
Sure.
So
yeah, definitely taking lemons.
I love it. Thank you guys so much. And sorry that I still have so many questions. So I will contact you guys because I kind of want to do another one. But thank you guys again so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was
Sure. Thanks for everything, Elise. It was a pleasure.
Thanks guys. It was my pleasure. Thank you.